Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday morning and happy birthday to all of you who are born in the month of February, my Aquarians and people born in the sign of Pisces. My name is Barry Mixon and welcome to the Gem Hunter Show. As most of you know, I am a gemological storyteller, which means that I take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones and precious metals and fine jewelry. And I use it as a template to get people to begin to understand and hopefully discover the value of their own stories. So, because the whole history of mankind really revolves around gemstones, and my passion about gemstones comes from those stories. So, allow me to tell you a story. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was a man sitting in a bar, drunk, and complaining about the things that were going on in the world. And then eventually his complaints turned to the gods. This was a Greek bar, so he was talking about the Diana and Bacchus and those type of gods. And unfortunately, his complaints, he was saying how the gods weren't really anything. They didn't do anything. Just, forget about them. Who are the gods? We're just as good as the gods. And unfortunately, the gods were listening. In particular, Bacchus, Bacchus is the god of wine. And he was listening. He was drunk too. And he got upset. He was just like, you know what? I am so sick and tired of mortals complaining about us, thinking that they're equal to us. You know what I'm going to do? Then I'm going to see that road down there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put two ferocious tigers on each side of that road. And the next human, I don't care who it is, the next human that walks down that road, they'll be eaten. They'll be killed, ripped apart. How dare you compare himself to them, us gods? So Bacchus set up the trap. Unfortunately, this beautiful young woman who was going down to pray to the temple of Diana was walking down that road. Bacchus he looked at this woman. He realized just how beautiful, how innocent, how just she was the essence of everything that the earth had to hold in regards to being a human. He didn't know what to do. And he couldn't stop the event because he set it up. So just as the tigers were about ready to pounce on this beautiful young lady, Diana intervened and turned her into a beautiful crystalline structure. And looked at looked at Bacchus as a woman would and just say, see what you did? And Bacchus was just so remorseful, so hurt, so regretful for what he did. He cried, and because he was the god of wine, his tears were purple tears, and some of those tears poured over the beautiful, now crystalline young lady. And when he turned her into something beautiful and crystalline and purple, and then when he turned into a human form, he went down to earth to find out what was her name, and he asked the village people, what is her name? What was her name? And one of the village people said her name was Amethystis, as we now know and call amethyst. That story came from a 16th century poet named Remy Belleau. In fact, he wrote a book. I managed to get a copy of it when I was in Europe. It's called the Les Amours de Nouveau Échange de Pierres Précieuses de Remy Belleau, which means the loves and new exchanges of precious stones by Remy Belleau. Remy Belleau was not only just a poet, but he was a French Renaissance poet. And him and four other guys got together and created this organization called the La Pléiades. The La Pléiades, the Pleiades are the constellations, the stars in the universe, right next to Taurus. There's 7 beautiful stars. And what their mission was to take things that they saw all around them, simple things that was ubiquitous in the world, and show the value of those things. They use flowers, they use trees, and Remy Belleau, his expertise was taking gemstones. So the stories, the name of Amethyst actually comes from that organization, that poet, 16th century poet. And in fact, this was his last book. And one of these days I'm going to translate it because it's actually in Old French. But the beauty, the essence of amethyst and many of the other gemstones comes from those stories. And I think last week we talked about this is a continuation of our discussion of the elements of a story. We talked about once upon a time. We talked about the sound. We talked about the hero, the being the hero in your story. Sorry, sound, passion, being excited, passionate about what you're doing. The hero, you being the hero in your own story. The antagonist, the obstacle, the thing that you have to overcome. We talked about last week, awareness. That moment when you realize that this is not something that you can do, this is something that you have to do. And this week, I think it's fitting that this is February. This is the gemstone for February, amethyst. And today's topic was transformation. Transformation is when you have done something in your life that has made other people have changed because of something that you did, because of something that you have created. That's transformation. When you look at an amethyst is basically a quartz. And for those of you who don't know, quartz is the most abundant element or crystal and structural mineral, actually, I should say, mineral on Earth. 12% of the land surface on Earth is made out of quartz. 20% of the Earth's crust is made out of quartz. But what makes quartz special is that when you take a trace amount of oxygen, of course, very abundant, the most abundant element, in silicon, and you put it together with just a hint of iron and titanium, you get amethyst. Amethyst, for those you don't know, was one of the original, truly special gemstones. Amethyst was the 9th stone of the breastplate of the high priest in Israel in the Bible. Amethyst has is one of the healing properties of gemstone. Amethyst allows you to heal your soul. It brings in integration, spiritual calm. Amethyst is a transformative stone. And if anybody who has ever been in love before, and for anyone who has ever been in love, for anyone who remembers that moment, that when you saw that person, that woman, across the room, and you knew that she was the one. Despite all the women in the room, all the women in your life, you understand that that woman is the one. Then you understand why amethyst was chosen as the birthstone of February. February, as we know, Valentine's Day is coming up. And so amethyst and the powers of healing and integration and transformation speaks to the stone, and also speaks to those people who are born in this month. This is who you are. You have, even though you may be a woman, and there are billions of women on the planet, amethyst speaks to what you are, your particular quality, the thing that makes you special. As I was thinking about what to say, how to put this all together, I was reminded of the death of Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson was a black woman born in the same place that I was born in, Harlem, New York. And yet Cicely Tyson, despite being born in that environment, despite all the trials and tribulations, the abuse, all the racism that she has experienced in her career, when she died at 96 years old, she was still beautiful. My first experience with Cicely Tyson was the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. And I remember thinking as a child, my God, how old is she? She looked like she was 1,000 years old. And it just dawned on me when she died that if she looked that good at 96 years old, how beautiful was she when she played Miss Jane Pittman? When you think about all the actors and actresses that have come after her, that's what you begin to understand, the meaning of transformation. And transformation doesn't happen because it's something that you want to do and become. It's because of your actions. It's because of what you bring to the game of life. How do you go from being something that's ordinary, something that is just ubiquitous, to something that is beautiful? This is amethyst. When I was in Mexico a few years ago, I walked into amethyst is found in places like Canada, Africa, Bolivia, Mexico, and also here in the United States. But I was in Mexico and I went into a amethyst mine, and I saw a geode, which is a large, huge mineral structure, and I cut part of it out. And I was in a class. This is in my early days when I first started gemology, and I made this ashtray. Actually, he wanted to use an ashtray, but it's a candle holder. It's not the best quality amethyst in the world. Amethyst that comes from Mexico is usually pretty pale in color. It's not the deep. Some of you see some elements of good quality right here. But what I remember is the lapidary, someone who cuts gemstones, told me before I started cutting, he said, breathe into it. I said, what do you mean? He says, let the gemstones speak to you before you cut it. And it was almost like he wanted me to pay homage or pay respect to the power of amethyst before I cut it. So the whole rest of this month, we're going to be talking about not just gemstones, but since this is the month of love, since this is Black History Month, I will use the powers of gemstones to illustrate not only the loving, healing, romantic qualities of a gemstone, in this case, amethyst, and there's many more, but also the powers that gemstones, the representative powers that you see in gemstone and you see in the people that we will celebrate, the African-American men and women who have changed the history of time by their own power, by their strength, by their perseverance. That's what amethyst is. That's what this month means. Transformation. When you put together all the other elements, you understand that transformation is that moment when you begin to see and hear your words coming back to you. How something that you said, and those of you who are moms, you know when you hear, especially moms who have had children and their children have had children, and when you sit back and listen to something that your daughter or that your son has said, and you know those words came from you, that is what transformation is. Transformation is the people that have helped me in my life, the people that have made me realize who I am. That is transformation. They didn't do it to get a shout out. They didn't do it. They did it because that's who they are. That is what the love that they exhibit. I think about just how amethyst is supposed to be a stone that ward off drunkenness. And I was thinking about that, and that may be true, but I don't think that Rene Belleau, our French poet, had that in mind when he told the story of amethyst. I think what he talked about was a stone that prepares you to be intoxicated, that calms you when you feel your heart racing because you've met that woman, that you have met that person that just makes the world seem like a different place. I think that's what he meant when he said, when they talked about amethyst being a healing stone, amethyst being a stone of integration, of spiritual calm, because that's what love is. When you love, remember when you were a kid and you just felt like you laid in your mom's arms, or as you got older, you laid in your loved one's arms, and just you felt like for that moment there's just peace, which is so important nowadays with everything going on. The transformative powers of love, of caring about someone else above and beyond yourself. That moment where you and that person connects on a spiritual level, that's what transformation is. That's what I hope that I bring out or can do in getting my understanding of gemstones, because the same silicon oxygen that is a part of this amethyst is also part of who we are as people, as human beings. And if you understand science, then you understand that silicon and oxide cannot work in one way for amethyst and somehow work differently in us. Those scientific principles have to be the same. Thus why I'm a gemological storyteller, because it's not just about the metaphysics. The metaphysics is true, but there is a relationship. How did this man write something in the 16th century? And yet this was his last book. How did he write this in the 16th century? And here a black man in the 21st century reads it and is inspired. This book, that story, was the first story that got me to understand the powers of gemstones. Last week we talked about, not only just the power of gemstones, but the relationship that gemstones have with women. Last month was garnet, and I talked about the thing with garnet is how garnet changes. Garnet can become different things. This depends on what element you put into garnet. Garnet can be green, garnet can be blue, garnet can be clear, garnet can be yellow. So the next month, it's not strange to me. The more I think about it, we talk about women in general, garnet, using different elements. And then we refine that understanding of women when we talk about amethyst. And then we put together amethyst, that stone, that birthstone, into the month that represents love. So when us guys go out there and spend all this money on roses that cost far less the day before, and somehow Valentine's Day is a special. I have a mixed feeling about Valentine's Day, because I think you should love a woman 365 days out of the year. And then if you miss one day, then that's fine. How does that one day really demonstrate your love? But that's just my own personal feelings about Valentine's Day. I celebrate it, but I just think it shortchanges the love and the respect that you should have towards your loved one. So I leave you today with understanding. I want you to understand. I don't leave yet. I want you to understand, or begin to use amethyst to understand the connection that gemstones have with people. It's not just words. It's not just, I'm not one. I didn't grow up with in a metaphysical household. I didn't grow up with, I lived in San Francisco. I lived around the hippie culture, but I did not, or the new age culture, but it was through the science. It was through the science. It was through the stories. It was through the history. How is amethyst the ninth stone in the Bible? How is amethyst, the purple color of amethyst, used by all the kings and queens? And not only just Europe, emperors, czars use this color to represent royalty. So if you are born, Denise, I'm talking to you. I have a friend, Denise, who was born February 14th. If this is your color, you have been imbued with a whole history of color, of purple. Purple being that rare color that can only be found. In fact, it wasn't until about the 15th, 16th century that they were actually able to make purple as a color, because it's so special. There were kings and queens that demanded that purple only be worn by the nobility. So those of you who are born in this month, February, are imbued with those powers, not just because you believe it, just because because history has shown it to be true. That even though you may come from simple beginnings, even though you as a person may be just one of 7.5 billion people on the planet, but because of what's inside of you, this is who you are. This is what people see. What I want you, and I didn't say it last week, and what I want you to begin to understand coming from a gemological point of view is that gemstones, the light that you see, the colors, the beauty of a gemstone is not from the outside in. It is the molecular structure that's inside that makes amethyst, citrine, garnet, diamonds, rubies. It makes them what they are. So extrapolate that out to you. You are beautiful. I don't care what you look like on the outside. Those of us who are gorgeous and sexy and hair and all, well, you know how I feel about hair, but those of us who have those external qualities, whatever you are, starts from the inside, which radiates outward. That's all a gemstone is. Without light, a gemstone would have no color. Without the elements inside amethyst, iron and titanium, a gemstone, amethyst, would not be the beautiful stone that you are today. So what I would like for you to begin to think about today is, what beautiful qualities do you have inside of you? Not that other people think of you. What qualities do you have inside of you? How have those qualities transformed the people around you? How have your story, like Cicely Tyson, how many actresses will become actors? How many women will have gained power and was empowered by what Cicely Tyson did? That's what transformation is. And for you to begin to understand transformation, I think you have to take a step back and do what I have to do with gemstones when I praise them. What is it? What is it made out of? What are you made out of? And how have those qualities been helped other people, your children, the people that you work with, the people in your community? How have those qualities transformed all those people around you? That's what this is. That's what my show about. That's what my show is about. taking those qualities and getting people to understand the value of your story. So I look forward to seeing you next week. I look forward to talking about another gemstones. And again, Barbara has put down my email address. If you have any questions or you have any particular gemstones that you would like for me to talk about, trust me, as a gemologist, I'm a professional gemologist. We have to study over 3,000 gemstones. Please give me the pleasure and the honor of looking at the gemstone that you want me to discuss. And I'm sure that there is something that is going to be able to, you'll see how stories and gemstones all fit together. So until we meet again, take a time to discover your story. Take a moment to, not more than a moment, take this weekend or rest of this week to understand how your energy, who you are, has transformed others, and discover the value of your own stories.
I still got Barry on. Thank you, Barry.
Hi. I feel like those newscasters like, oh, I'm live. Okay, great. Hi, Barbara. Happy Wednesday. Yes, Amethyst, and it's Valentine's Day month. I say that as a man because it's easier to think of Valentine's Day as a month. So this way you never miss out on doing that special thing that you should do for your loved one. So I tell guys, go shopping now. Flowers are cheaper now, and do it now. And trust me, a woman will give her flowers now and then do the cards or something later on. Of course, the jewelry is good for any time, but be smart about it. Be strategic about Valentine's Day. That's what I think. Those are my 60 years of experience dealing with women and understanding that, you need to think about those things.
Okay, Barry. Thank you. I know you had to do that last little take. First, I want to say hello to you.
No problem. Thank you. Good seeing you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Sometimes I just like catching people off guard. I know Barry wants to say, what? She did that to me? We have fun. Thank you, Barry. You know I appreciate you so much. And you always, one thing about Barry, real quickly, if I have to give him so much honor right now for a certain reason, because every time I call on him, it could be at 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, during the day, and I'm like, Barry, uh, do you think you could do this, or can we do this, or are you open to doing this? And he's like, here we go. He said, what? But you know what? He does it with class. He always, gives, and he's such an awesome person. So Barry, I thank you so much for just you doing what you do and dealing with me. But we're getting the job done. We're getting things done. So with that, but I'll be better at it. Instead of calling you at 2:30 in the morning, I'll call you at 1:30. How about that? That will do it. So with that, we're gonna move on. First, real quickly, I always try to give a quote or something. It's something for you to think about during the day, before we come back on Fridays and Mondays. So one of my biggest things that I'm always talking about is when you have dreams and goals, when you're thinking about your dreams and goals in life, that I always say put some action to it. So I always want you to remember it's nice to dream, awesome to dream, because there's a lot of people have created and done different things because of dreaming. And it's also nice to put down your goals so you can have it in order and you know what you have to do. But the biggest thing out of all that, none of that's going to get done unless you put some action to it. You have to take that next step, as I say, which is the work, right? But again, if it's your PPD, as I always say, if it's your purpose, passion, and drive, and you believe in it, and it's like it's just that passion is just gushing out of you, like, oh, I got to do this, then the work is going to come so much easier. Now, there's going to be challenges, yes. Yes, there's going to be some times where you self doubt yourself. Yes, the gremlins are going to come behind your back and say, hey, maybe you should do this. All that's going to happen because that's just a part of the process. I always tell people that's a part of the process of growing and moving into your dreams, into your goals. So make sure that you always think about, okay, I dreamed, I have goals, now I have to do the work and I have to put some action to it. So going right into that, we have, and I'm so excited, this lady, Laura Armstrong, she is coming on. Oh my gosh, she is the leadership consultant. She's a speaker. She's an author. She is triple threat. And we've been talking, and she came on the show before I interviewed her. And then after that, I said, Laura, it would be really nice if you can come back on because I love to bring people back on that's really just moving forward and can give value to you in this show. And I've seen that in her. And we just really clicked some more. And she was like, oh, maybe, I could do a series or something to do with communication and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. She didn't know in the back of my mind. I'm like, yes. So we decided that for the month of February, and she can correct me when she comes on, February, March, and a little April, that she's going to be doing a series every Wednesday at this time. So I'm going to tell you, put it on your calendar, mark it down, that she is going to be really helping you know how to communicate with your loved ones, with your business partners, heck, with anybody that may be in the store, that you're in the store and you're getting your groceries. She's going to show you how to really relate, how to communicate, and understand. I call it the special sauce of knowing what and you're going to understand what she means when she's going to say code, understand their communication code. But see, I don't want to give too much because she's the one the expert. I'm just here bringing her on. So I'm going to bring her on. Now, every Wednesday when she comes on, she's going to be showing you. I'm not going to be in the room. I'm going to be in the room, but I'm going to be in the virtual green room because I want you to get all that she has. And then she's going to let you know how to contact her too through these series because you're going to want to work with her. She is a tremendous coach and you're going to want to work with her beyond this series. But take notes, and make sure you're getting the information. So I'm going to bring her on right now. Hey, Miss Laura.
Hey there, how's it going?
How's it going?
I got my virtual background going on here. Yeah.
Got it going on, lady. So I'm going to let you do your thing, and then we're going to go from there. I'll see you in a minute.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited to be doing this series. When Barbara and I were talking, she is just an amazing person. And I'm not just saying that because it's words coming out of my mouth. She really wants the best and most for everyone. And we connected on that level so much. So we had a chat about how we could help people the most. And I'm all about people moving to the next level. And some people call me a coach. I don't really like that word so much. I am a leadership accelerator and a communication expert. So I want people to accelerate to the next level in their life and speak effectively so that they're getting what they're looking for from people and people are getting what they need from them. So I have a different point of view about coaching and how that all works. I like people to step into their power. And like Barbara said, it takes work, right? And communication is such a huge part of that. We don't even realize because not only do we communicate verbally, we also communicate, visually, okay, and by listening actively. Actually, our verbal communication is only 7% of the communication that we have with other human beings, okay? The other 93% is active listening, okay, and watching people's body language, the way they act, the background, how they're dressed, what they're wearing, how they're presenting themselves. So all of these things are really important as a part of communication. So, and I found that the number one thing that actually helped me when I was learning was that I really, in my personality, had to sit back and listen better because I wasn't listening well enough. I was interrupting people, which is rude on a lot of levels. But I really wanted to listen to the cues that they were giving me about who they were and the values that were important to them. So let me talk a little bit about that. So I am a certified trainer and coach in a personality assessment and coding methodology called BANK. BANK was invented by Sherry Tree in California. She's an amazing woman who is out to change the world and connect and empower humanity with our bank code methodology. And over the next, I think it's 12 weeks or so, I'm going to go through a little bit about each code, not only each code, but how to communicate better. Because actually learning about each code is great, but how you apply it is also really, really relevant. So a little bit about me. I am a leadership accelerator and a communication expert. I am a 3-time world champion martial artist who wants to see you step into your power and your greatness. And communication is such a huge part of leadership. And that's the piece we're going to talk about the next 12 weeks. So I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm going to introduce you to a revolutionary idea that was originally created as a sales tool, but has become so much more than that. It's a relationship tool, it's a connection tool, and it's going to be something, BANK is something that can actually have you increase your communications skills and times 10x, right? Like whatever it is that you want to do. It's going to make your life so much easier. It's easy to use, easy to apply. But like if you were learning a language, it takes work, right? So you really want to start thinking about how you're going to use it in your life, because you can really use it in every aspect of your life. Okay. So I'm going to reveal the secrets, the science and system to BANK. And today is kind of like our little intro about it. And, I think that sales is also a really key thing, because I think there's a lot of stigma attached with the word sales. I used to think about the used car salesman, right? And that just wasn't cool, right? Because now it seemed to become a bit of a dirty word, right? So if sales doesn't resonate with you, use the word influence, okay? Because influence and sales are the same thing. You are selling something every time you open your mouth, whether it's to your family or to your clients or to the dentist, whatever it is, right? And if we think of it in that way, we're looking to either get what we need from something, get what we want, or help other people, right? So there's really 3 outcomes that are just going on there, okay, when we're communicating. So a lot of the time, and I'll cover each one of those. So a lot of the time in sales, we've been told that the more no's you get, the more yeses you get, which I don't believe is true. I think that's a ridiculous statement. That's my personal opinion. I think that the more yeses I get, the more yeses I'm going to get, right? So that's what I'm aiming for. And I'm going to show you a proven way to do that in your influence and your sales, okay? In your communication, I'm going to show you how to speak to the values that are important to the people around you, both your customers and your family and friends, so that not only can you have better communication, but better relationships with them. I can't tell you the number of times that, I've spoken to couples and I've worked with them. And I don't say counsel because I'm not a counselor. I don't have a designation for that. But I just wanted to help people. And they're like, can you help us with BANK? Is that something that would work? Like, these are people who are at a last ditch effort, right? And they need some help. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we could take a look at it. I took it, they coded themselves, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I looked at both their codes. I looked at how they would interact, and and then we add in the component of emotional intelligence around that and why they were having problems. And it became very clear to me what was going on. And so then we had a session with them, and, we had the conversation around that. And all of a sudden they were understanding each other, which I'm telling you, if we can hear each other and understand each other, that's just going to create so much more in the world for everybody. And communication is so, so key. So let me introduce you to a very powerful concept, which is revolutionary in nature. It's called BANK. Now, what is BANK? So BANK is personality-based, meaning it's rooted in the principles of the 4 personality types. And this dates back thousands of years to Hippocrates, the father of medicine, who basically divided the human race into 4 different categories. And the way he would treat each category was very different one from another because they each were very different temperaments, okay? And so thus the theory of the 4 temperaments, okay? And yet when we use Bank with a very powerful twist, we can apply this to not only today's sales practices, but our lives in general and how we relate to other human beings. And this will create extraordinary results. Bank is people-focused, okay, which is something that's unusual because that's the secret to creating greater in your life and communication. It's also profit-driven because we want you to make more money than ever before. And money is really important because money allows us to help more people, okay, and create more in the world and have more ease in our lives. And, you know, there's another stigma there around money. If we want money, it's seen as being bad. Well, no, it's actually not. It's just a part of the journey, and we need it to survive and thrive, right? We don't want it just to survive. Okay. So I really feel Bank covers all the 4 areas of how we can create more in our lives. Okay. And over the next series that I'm working with you, you're going to see that happen. And the thing that I want to talk about is the acronym BANK, B-A-N-K, stands for each of the personality types. Okay. So B is for blueprint, A is for action, N is for nurturing, and K is for knowledge. Now, you're going to see once we start to talk about the blueprint next week, because that's where I'm going to start, you're going to see how different as we go through this, each code is from the other and how their values are completely different. So when you're speaking to people, you really need to actively listen and watch so that you understand the values that are important to them. So you would never speak the same way to a blueprint as you would to an action. They are completely different values, and your message is going to get lost. And I find in not only email, but speaking and other written communication, it's very easy for our messages to get mixed up and misinterpreted. And you don't want that happening. You want absolute clarity when you're communicating. Does that sound right? I'm just trying to be mindful of our time because it's my first day here today, and Barbara's just been very super generous. So basically, it's not rocket science, okay? It's in fact personality science. And I'm sure that you guys have done at some point some personality assessment. And I want to just lead off by saying personality assessments are awesome. So whether, you know, there's DISC, MBTI, there's Myers-Briggs, there's color coding animals, you know, there's horoscope ones, there's all sorts of different ones. And they are all amazing. They all have amazing things about them. But what I love about them all is that they tell you about yourself, okay, which is great because finding out about ourselves really allows us to find out about, you know, what we want to improve about ourselves, what we don't like about ourselves, and maybe the things we didn't realize we were really good at about ourselves, and many other things about our personalities. But what I noticed with all of these other personality assessments is they never, first of all, they never taught me how to speak to people so they were hearing me and the values that were important to them, okay? And Bank is unique this way because it's reverse engineered to do that. It's going to teach you how to recognize, pay attention, and tap into the values that are important to the people that you're interacting with, right? It's so key these days, especially when we're so much more limited to how we can communicate. We really have to pay attention, okay? So I just want to say that that's the kind of uniqueness that I find with Bank. And I also found that it was also really easy to use. And, you know, we have lots of tools and technology in our company, you know, artificial intelligence, you know, places where you can crack your code and get your report. I use these amazing value cards that have the values of all the 4 different bank codes on them. But, you know, keeping this top of mind is really what you want to be doing. And I actually, you know, have started thinking about people in code, not just in my family or at home or my customers. Like I'll be watching a TV show. I'll be like, oh my gosh, that guy's such a blueprint, right? You start to recognize these things. So it's not like you turn this on at a certain time of the day and then turn it off. It's like speaking a language. The more you are in a conversation with someone, it's conversational, whatever, let's say Spanish, and there's no English allowed, you're just going to get really good at Spanish really quickly. okay? Because you don't have another option. So bank is kind of the same way. The more we start looking at people in code, the better your communication is going to be. You're going to be able to solve problems, communicate better, increase your sales, and just have better relationships, which are deeper and richer, okay? And, you know, it's just going to be a beautiful experience for you. So, you know, I talked a little bit about the different personality codes. And what I really want to talk about is I've noticed that a lot of the people that are using personality assessments tend to get wrapped up, like I said, in about me. But what I want to do is I want you to start thinking about when you start to crack people's codes, okay? So it's kind of like a cryptex. Does anybody know what that is? So that would be, I guess that you saw the movie, what was the name of it? Da Vinci Code, that's right. Where they had a cryptex and you had to kind of get the code on the outside so that you could open it up and get the message that was on the inside, right? So if you didn't get the message or you put the code in improperly and you weren't able to open it or you tried to force it open, what would happen? Well, what would happen is there was a tiny little vial of vinegar in there, okay? And if you didn't get the code, what would happen is that vial of vinegar would crack, and guess what? What do you think that did to the paper? Right. So the message disappears. So the message was lost. Okay. So I want you guys to start thinking about the people you interact with as the code on the outside of the cryptex. Okay. So you want to be thinking about the 4 different codes that each person has in order. Okay. And once you have that code and you crack that code, man, you're getting the message clear. You're not busting that vial of vinegar and you're having a better relationship with this person. So when we crack somebody's bank code, like I said, it's the 4 different bank codes: the blueprint, the action, the nurturing, and knowledge. And just depending on what values are most important to them, that's going to be first, secondary, third, and fourth. So it goes from most important, or what represents you the most, to the least. Okay. And I'll just talk a little bit about each code. So the first code that you pick is your primary. So that is what you are the most of, or represents you the most, okay? And the next one is your secondary code. That is very much attached to your first code, right? So that has a lot of influence about the person you are, the values that are important to you. The second code is not as dominant as the first unless you are equal, and there are ways to find that out as well. The code that you pick as your third code is actually called your stress code. So that's where you would go when you are in stress. And a lot of us have been in stress the last year or so, so our behavior has probably not been normally what it is, right? And if we haven't recognized it, maybe other people have. So I find people are starting to shift back into their regular codes, but please know that that's where you go when you're in stress. Okay, so whether it's in your marriage or your relationship, or at work or something going on in your life, you're going to go into that third code and react a little differently than you're used to. Okay, and a good example of that for me is my third code is knowledge. So as soon as I started to stress out with what was going on in the world, I went right to the government sites to get all my information, because that is important to me as a knowledge. Okay. And I really kind of shut myself down and kind of went in, a little bit of an introvert, which is not me, for a little while, to just kind of get things organized, answer all the questions I needed answered, and figure out what was going on. So that is my stress code. And I know that when I get stressed, I go there. Okay. And then your last code is usually what you're the least of. Now, you are a bit of each of the codes. So it's not like you're one or the other. The other thing that can happen is if you are, your codes are close, like if you can't quite decide one or the other, they are interchangeable, and your code can change because, during what's going on now, I've really had to get a lot more organized and have a system in place that gives me step-by-step things that will minimize the risk that I'm going through and maximize the value that I'm offering, which is not my typical personality, but I've been able to bring up my last code so it's closer to the other 2 codes. So it just depends on what what you are and where your code is when you crack your code. And I think what we'll do, Barbara, is we'll put the link for everyone to go in and crack their code, and you'll receive a free report about yourself as well. If you'd like to connect with me about that, I'm happy to go over that with you and chat with you about it. It's fascinating. You can book some time with me, and I do have a call that I offer, but Barb, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So that's just a little bit about what's going on. So the other thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap up here this morning is please know that no matter what your code is, it's never wrong, right? So you really are just going to be where you are, okay? And that can always change and grow. And, if you're going to change and grow, then we start to move into the intelligences, okay? And those are the things that show us where we need to shore up the things that are not so great in our life that we can create and improve on, okay? And we're going to talk about that in our series a little bit later. So Bank is designed to help you increase your influence in your life, whatever that looks like for you, up to 300%. That's a lot. Okay. So basically you're going to learn to speak 4 different languages, okay, with Bank. Okay. And it's really a unique position because once you sort of get out of your own head and into other people's values and things that are important to them, you're really going to become someone who can communicate really, really well. Okay. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, I meet with someone and they speak English. Okay. And we have a good conversation because we speak the same language. I know that I'm going to be able to move forward in the relationship or the sale or whatever it is that you're looking for. Okay. Then I meet someone who speaks Spanish. Okay. If they're speaking Spanish and I'm speaking English, do you think that we're going to be able to communicate maybe by hand signals, but my message isn't really getting across? But what if I could learn something just as simple as a greeting, like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Do you think their eyes are going to light up? Yes, they are, because all of a sudden we have a connection. Okay. And once we have that connection, we're going to be able to move forward from there. Whether it's a better relationship, whether it's closing the sale, whatever it is, on all levels, right? So I just increased my my influence up to 100%. So now I can speak 2 languages to people and have a better relationship around that, right? What if we look even higher? What if it's someone who speaks Italian, right? And I don't speak Italian, right? But you know what? Hand gestures are really good in Italian. But the fact of the matter is, if I can come out with an Italian saying "come vai," then all of a sudden, again, they're going to light up. They'll be like, "Hey, she's making an effort to speak some Italian to me," so there's going to be a connection. Okay, and then you've increased your influence 200%. Okay, and the same thing if I did it again. Okay, if maybe it was Chinese. I don't know Chinese, but I know the greeting and I know a couple of words because I have a lot of Chinese or Asian friends, and if I go up to someone and say, hey, ni hao ma, right? So all of a sudden they're going to light up. They'll be like, what? This non-Asian person speaks Chinese, or at least will greet me in Chinese. Making the effort is what people want to see, right? And that's where your communication skills are just going to serve you. And implementing Bank into that is going to keep you ahead of the pack in that, okay? So I really want you to be thinking about that, right? So once I speak and connect with the person who speaks Chinese, I've just upped my influence 300% and on and on and on. Right? So you guys get the idea. So basically what you want to do is you want to be taking your communication skills, taking them to the bank, implementing Bank code into your life, not just your business. And this is going to allow you to connect with others and change the world and connect and empower humanity and have that ripple out into the world. I can't think of anything better that we could do. Just checking in about my time, Barbara. I'm not sure how much more I have left, but yeah, it's just been great talking to you guys. I'll be here every week. And next week, we're going to cover the blueprint personality type. I'm going to talk to you about when you're speaking to them in a sales scenario, what values, the values are all the same. How to speak to them in sales, how to do it if you're dating someone who's a blueprint, how to communicate if you're parenting, and just basically communication skills. So that's all I have today. Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Remember, bring your notepads, connect with me, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And you can check me out at leadershipwithlaura.com. And remember, take it to the bank. Thank you.
I'm hanging on your every word, the love inside, I feel it burn. I've never felt this way before. I've had a taste, now I want more. So here we are, just you and me. I'm overwhelmed when you touch me. You talk so sweet, I hear the sound, 'cause when you do, my feet won't touch the ground. My feet won't touch the ground.
Boom. I can't end the show without me being on mute, right? That seems like that's one of my trademarks now. I'm like, oh no, I don't want that trademark. Uh, anyway, thank you, Laura, for coming on. I mean, believe me, that you're gonna get so much information from this lady. She when it says leadership communication expert, look up the word expert, and you'll see her face there because she is an expert in this arena, and I'm learning so much. See, okay, before I end this, I was got to put a tip there. When you see that you're doing more talking when the expert is talking to you and you're trying to talk more than they are, then that means you need to shut this down and open the ears. Okay? I don't care from the age of 2 to 92. We are always forever learning. And when you have people that come in your life that knows things that you might understand, and I will put my hand up in the air every time to say, look, I don't understand this subject, or I don't understand how this goes. You have to keep yourself open for learning. So I'm saying that because I'm seeing more and more. I don't know what it is. Maybe, I don't know. But I see a lot of people doing a lot of blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, listen to what the experts say. Listen to what other person is saying. We all have geniuses in us. We all have those gifts and talents. But if you don't listen to what the gift and talents are saying, when they're talking to you, then you're going to miss the golden nuggets of what they have. So just to say all that, I got to go on my little soapbox sometime. But I'm saying this because everybody that I bring on, I always try to make sure, I always say this. The biggest thing is bringing value to the show, bringing value to you. Because I come on, I say what I have to say, but it's not about me. This is all about you. I want to make sure you're getting awareness of what's going on around, depending on what topic it is. I want you to make sure that you're getting knowledge and educated on things so you can move forward in your life, be it in your business, be it in your personal life. And then I want you to understand that this is an open door for you to have your say. So if anybody going into that is interested in being a sponsor for the show, or if you want to come on, just like Laura's coming on and doing series, please contact me. Let me know and let's have a talk. Because like I said, your geniuses, your gifts, your talents, I know they're there. And I'm always talking about how everyone has that special one. So let me know and we can have that talk. And remember, that's why we got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we can listen to the knowledge and the wisdom that people are giving us. And with that, I will see everybody on Friday. We have Mrs. Madeline coming on. And then there's going to be a special guest. I always say that. I don't like to tell you. Just because you got to come, you got to come. You got to come Friday to see the special guest. So with that, I'm always say, remember your PPD, your purpose, passion, and drive that's in you, that's a part of you, that's who you are, that's your foundation, that moves you through life, through all the obstacles and everything, the pandemics, the hurricanes, the snowstorms like I had the other day, everything. Don't let all that stop you from doing what you need to do, because you have that purpose to move forward in this world, to accomplish big things and be epic in your life. See you on Friday.